it's Jack. I'm in Dallas at Dealey Plaza, or outside of the Texas Book Depository building, which is right over here. I think you all know where I am. So Oswald would have been in the corner window on the 6th floor. If you can't count the floors, that's one down from the top. Corner window. It's a 7-story building. He was in the 6th floor corner window. We're gonna walk through Dealey Plaza. It's one thing that when you get here, you understand how actually small this is. And when you've seen it on all the newspapers and magazines and TV and Oliver Stone and everything, you get a sense that it's really big. At least I did, but it's actually fairly small location. And now that I'm really here, I got some questions, and I also want to just kind of show it to you all in one video, no editing, because I think when you see all the media out there, it's kind of hard to piece it all together, and I wanted to see if I can accomplish that for you in this fairly quick video. So let's just start with President Kennedy coming down Main Street here, and then turning on to Houston Street right here. One thing that I'll point out to you immediately is if you're in a presidential limousine right in the middle of the street here, it's a clear, almost like square shot from the window to the limousine as you're moving down Houston Street here. If you were to travel that direction, which is what the president did, and having just made the turn from Main Street to Houston, you'd be going at a rather slow rate of speed. And as you can see, the president would have been traveling closer and closer towards the book depository in this direction for what I would say is a block, or maybe a half a block or something like that. I'm not a marksman by any way, shape, or form, or an expert in that regard, or even a Kennedy assassination conspiracy theorist. In fact, for the most part, I'm actually kind of skeptical of all those conspiracy theorists and the people, mostly I think out to make a buck. But now that I'm here, I do have some questions. And most especially, obviously, the motorcade would not have stopped, but when it got to this intersection, having just made a turn here, it would have made another turn right here and probably would have slowed down because there's a rather sharp curve. To me, this appears right here to be your best chance, almost squared up to your target, shooting directly down as your target is slowing down and getting closer to you at this corner. But as you know, that's not when the shot rang out. The presidential limousine made the turn onto Dealey Plaza here. And by the way, Dealey Plaza built in 1936 by the Works Progress Administration, 38 to 40, excuse me. So Kennedy made the turn and started heading down. And as you can see, we're moving downwards. There's a slope, and we're moving away from the book depository. There are 2 X's in the road here. And again, the slope, we're moving farther down, and we're no longer squared up in any way, shape, or form. I imagine that tree must have been shorter in 1963, if it was there at all. And this is where the 2 first shots rang out. First one hitting the president, and the second one hitting Governor Conley. And you got to say that this is, again, not an expert, but I'm just saying, my complete expertise in marksmanship is at the county fair, right? Trying to win some prize at the county fair. But this looks like a much more difficult shot a much more difficult shot. Also coming into view down by the sign, the highway sign, is the grassy knoll. And I will note that there is no shot from the grassy knoll up to the intersection of Elm and Houston. You could not make a shot from the grassy knoll until you turned on to Elm, whereas Oswald clearly had a very clear shot from the 6th floor down to Houston as Kennedy made the turn. But as you know, he held off and didn't shoot the first 2 shots until right there. If we were here that day, right about this shot, we would be on the Zapruder film, because Mr. Zapruder was standing on that plinth over there, which we'll get to in just a minute. What we're looking at right now is the Zapruder location, the grassy knoll to the far corner, and then I don't know if you can see, but where those 2 gentlemen are with the cowboy hats, the rail yard is behind that stockade fence. Over here, and now we are going significantly farther down the street, and I imagine the reason why we're moving quite a distance, and this is probably 25, 30 yards, is after the first 2 shots, I'm assuming the presidential limousine has accelerated, and here in the middle of the street, Elm Street, is the final X. And this is, according to the conventional understanding of the assassination, the final shot from the 6th floor window to President Kennedy in the limousine right here. It's really hard to kind of, you've heard about all of these things, but being here is breathtaking. When I pulled up into Dealey Plaza through this underpass here, I was like, oh my God, I'm here. It was like, wow. I mean, you've seen this on, the movies and the TV, all those things, like I mentioned, but to actually be here, and it's actually a fairly small location, but I gotta say, not being an expert, it just seems like shooting directly from the book depository down to Houston Street seems like such an easier shot than from here. So again, not a big fan of these conspiracy theorists, but I see what they're after, because if somebody was at the grassy knoll, which is just right over there, this is a fairly short shot. It's much shorter from this X to the grassy knoll than from the X to the book depository. Just saying. So we're going to cross the street. We're now directly across from the Zapruder location. And again, there's the stockade fence and the grassy knoll. There's no one coming. We'll cross the street. And as we get up this little hill here, we are exactly where Zapruder was. He was standing on top of this plinth, steadied by his secretary, shooting Kennedy, coming around Houston to Elm. And then, of course, you see the shot on the famous film. People standing in that Plaza Green area where we just were would have been on Zapruder's film itself. That's quite a shot. Again, not an expert. Seems totally doable, but also, again, the higher degree of certainty would have been up right where that police car is turning right now. As you see, he slows down a little bit and comes down the hill, accelerates a little bit, going away from the book depository. That's that. And here's another classic view of the Zapruder location, where we are right, where we're viewing it right here, right as Kennedy comes down. And then, of course, the infamous grassy knoll, where one of the journalists thought she saw Dallas police officers running over to the knoll where they theoretically saw a second shooter. Who knows, really? Over here, behind this stockade fence, which has been rebuilt multiple times, is the rail yard. And there's actually still some train tracks here. And the original switching building is still here, but now it's a parking lot. Which, of course, you heard about if you watched the JFK film by Oliver Stone. You've seen that. Having been here, it is like the physicality of it kind of reinforces some of those things that you've heard that have been conspiracy theories. If you've ever been to Ford's Theater, you also see like how small these places actually are. They loom so large in our imagination, but when you come here, it's really only a block and a half, 2 blocks maximum. And Ford's Theater, of course, very, very small. And you see how Booth escaped from the theater. It's like, wow, how did he pull that off? Everything was, fairly tight. And everything was fairly tight location right here as well. All right, so I'll leave it up to you to debate for probably forever. But until then, I'm John F. Gately. You can call me Jack from Dallas. We'll keep you posted. Bye-bye.